My name is Jason Mons. I'm the CEO of S&S Worldwide. And on behalf of our partners, Hasbro, 7, and AOA, I'm so excited to be here. And even more, I'm excited to be representing an amazing group of people back in Logan, Utah, who have helped put this thing together. It was 2019 when S&S first introduced the Axis coaster. At that time, we knew we had something amazing. We took a standard roller coaster, we added our patented and exclusive spin technology, and we transformed that into something extremely unique.
This partnership that we began literally almost 2 years ago now could have only really come together, with the makeup of the great teams that are involved. When I walked the show floor 2 years ago, I walked past the S&S stand and actually immediately identified the coaster as being something that would lend itself brilliantly to the Transformers theme.
Through our great partnership with AOA, S&S, and 7, we really believe that we're going to show some incredible innovation with the brand, stories that you've never seen before as this attraction comes to life.
Well, I know everyone's been waiting a long time for this one. Guys, we're finally getting an Axis coaster. There's a lot of speculation, but the rumors are true. An Axis coaster is going to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, and it's not Six Flags Qiddiya. I feel like that's a common misconception. Yeah. It's going to a family entertainment center. They're opening a whole bunch of them. They're called 7.
This one is going to one of the first ones that they're opening up, which is in Riyadh. Six Flags Qiddiya is going to be just outside of Riyadh. So these are going to be like within an hour of each other. Yes. Falcon's Flight and the first Axis coaster.
Yeah, it's suddenly going to be like a roller coaster.
Yeah, they're really like beefing up this area from like not being known for roller coasters at all to now it's going to be just like this huge like landmark area. And so this is going to be their headlining attraction. It's a completely indoor mini theme park, and they're getting an Axis. It's crazy.
And not just any Axis. It's going to be themed to Transformers.
They unveiled the official vehicle at IAAPA 2023. We got to see it in person. It's the same design as what they had on display at IAAPA a couple of years ago, but this time we actually have the official colors for what the first one will look like.
And it's so cool. It's like an iridescent, like basically whatever lighting it's under and where you're standing, the color will change. So it's very, very cool. Very fitting for the theme.
Yeah, definitely. And they're going to be dressing this up with theming throughout the experience. So you can see in this animation that they released, they're flying past like these structures that are going to act as near misses. It's really pretty cool. And I also like that you can see some of the lighting that they'll have in place. Like at this one part, it looks blue and then it switches to red. I'm imagining like a darker, like not super well lit room, but then the Axis coaster is like flying throughout it, and every time the train passes by it changes colors or something.
So it's actually a pretty small layout, which a lot of people are like, oh, that's it. But you have to remember, it's actually not a bad thing that they're going with a small version to start, because it's easier to manage, easier to build, easier to figure out the kinks, you know what I mean, for like future bigger ones to come about. And that's kind of the same thing where everyone's like, oh, it's so far away from like where most people live, and that is very true. But again, you need a first one. You need someone to bite, and we wouldn't have RMC coasters if Over Texas hadn't gone with an iBox, you know what I mean? So there has to be a first. And it looks like we're finally getting it. So now, prospective customers, maybe Six Flags, maybe Cedar Fair, maybe small parks, who knows, can go out there, ride this thing, and be like, oh, well, we can make this bigger and better.
Absolutely.
And let's do it.
Yeah, and this is a much more permanent version where before the only way that you could experience an Axis coaster was if you're a potential customer going out to the S&S Worldwide facility in Logan, Utah and take a ride on it. Now, the irony is that this layout is not that much bigger than the prototype they had at their facility, and they actually have a decent amount in common. So they both start off with a launch.
Which is hilarious because the whole thing was they were like, okay, when you ride the prototype, don't focus on the launch, focus on the rest of the ride, because the launch isn't really necessarily a part of it. Like, it's meant to be a lift hill. And I'm like, okay. In my head, I've always been like, it's going to be a lift hill. Like, get that out of your head. And now they're like, we got the first one. It's launched. I'm like...
But unlike the one that's at the S&S factory, which is an air launch, this is going to be an LSM system because they need you to be able to continue going forward when it comes back around because it's going to do 2 laps. So I think that's really cool. It's going to be a different sensation. And the first element after that launch is actually very similar to the one that is at the S&S factory.
That's really good. So.
Yeah, both of us have experienced that. And so we actually kind of know what that's going to feel like. You're then going to fly around this bank maneuver. You're going to be right up against the ground, turn to the left, and then you're going to do a roll. But what's cool is that the vehicle is going to rotate at a different pace than how the actual track is inverting. Like, it doesn't rotate how you think it will. An underrated part of this layout is also how you're going to be rocking back and forth in between these elements. So you can actually like look at the layout and you're like, okay, objectively there's really only like 3 main moments here. But in between each of those moments, when you're going from one element to the next, you're going to be kind of like rocking back and forth, like off balance, and then you're going to hit that maneuver and then it'll go boom, flip you over.
So cool. So having done the prototype, the sensation itself is like incredible, but the visual is what, like when you put those two things together, it's such a cool sensation. I can't wait for, you know, these to pop up all over the place so everyone can do them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At least at the IAPA Expo, I mean, Axis was the talk of the town. Like everyone who walks by that booth is seeing that thing as like, wow, that looks like so freaking cool. So I think there's a lot of interest there. It's just gonna be one of those wait and see kind of moments. But I feel like things are definitely looking up. I'm really proud of everyone at S&S for able to get this off the ground. Like 4 years after making the official debut, and it's finally happening.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna be one of those attractions that like once somebody bites, like they're gonna start spreading like crazy. I feel that way about like the Pescetti coasters.
Yep.
Now that they're opening up, I imagine they're gonna start popping up all over the place. And the way the free spins caught on, also S&S.
Yep.
You open up one, and then everyone's like, "Well, I need one of those too."
Yeah.
And I think it's gonna have a similar catch to it because it's a gimmick per se, but it's like an incredible one.
It's a really, really good gimmick. It adds variety, you know? Again, it's that type of experience that it's going to make you want to travel to do this sort of sensation because of how unique it is. And that's the big selling point.
Well, that's the whole thing is you look at the layout and you're like, well, that's okay, like sure. But then when you actually see what the vehicles are doing, like that's the whole thing. That's the route.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's very different than what most people are doing.
Yeah, it's not really about the layout. It's about like how the vehicle handles.
Well, it's like
those
Pipeline.
elements.
It reminds me of like Pipeline because like that layout objectively is like, okay, like whatever. But then you do it on that vehicle and it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
So similar thing. And I think people are going to do this and be like, okay, like take my money. Please.
Definitely. So let us know down in the comments below what you think of the first ever S&S Axis making its debut in Saudi Arabia. And stay tuned for more here at Coaster Studios. We'll see you next time.